Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Welcome to my almost 2-year late Tales of Zestiria review. Tales of Zestiria was released on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and Steam on October 20th, 2015. Seeing as how I'm playing this game extremely late, I would like to go over some experiences that would affect my review. Since the release of Zestiria, the pricing of this game has drastically dropped for consoles, although it's still close to its original price on Steam. I only had to pay $20 for it new on Amazon rather than pay the full price of $60, so I'm obviously getting a much better deal than other reviewers who may have had to pay the full price. I have also been exposed to people's general opinion of the game being bad. As a result, I came into this game having lower expectations than I normally would. The last thing, which is probably the most influential experience, is that I have played Tales of Berseria, which is the newest Tales of game, which takes place about 1,000 years prior to the events of Zestiria. Berseria gave me the background of characters from Zestiria that originally had very little story behind them, as well as a little more insight on the lore in the world of this universe. I will be sure to mention these things in the review when I get to those points, but I would like to give you guys a fair warning before I begin. And of course, some spoilers will be present, but it shouldn't ruin the story for you if you haven't played yet. So after completing the game, I can say that I actually really enjoyed the game, although there were obviously some problems. The story follows the typical JRPG stories in that you play the hero whose goal is to save the world from evil. The protagonist Sorey is a shepherd who has the power to purify Hellions, who are people or animals turned into monsters due to malevolence. Malevolence is created from strong negative feelings which everyone has, but once a person passes a certain point of negativity, they will transform into a Hellion. Sorey's goal is to save everyone from malevolence and fight against the shepherd's arch nemesis, the Lord of Calamity. Broadly speaking, saving the world has been done many times before, but the execution was done very well. I like the concept of malevolence as it is very relatable to the real world, since there can be a lot of hatred and negative emotions fueling war and death. Sorey will have to overcome obstacles that are very relevant in order to not be tainted by malevolence, no matter what happens. This leads into plenty of moments that make the story emotional. No matter how much you wish for it or how hard you try, there are always going to be some people that you can't save. But no matter what happens, he has to stick to his guns and continue on the path he believes in. The cast of protagonists and antagonists worked very well together and kept the story engaging. Edna and Lila were definitely my two favorite characters as they kept the adventure very amusing. Edna's sarcastic attitude was very entertaining to watch as she trolled Sorey and Mikleo despite having that nice innocent girl look.
I see. You like to guilt trip a girl into making the first move.
What?
Sorey, maintain your purity.
Lila's puns were especially relatable to me as I also have a friend who likes to make terrible puns that everyone gets tired of hearing. But it always lightens the mood. As bad as Lila's puns can be, it offered a good change of pace from some of the more serious parts of the game.
Be hiding anywhere in the museum. We better canvas the entire area. See what I did there? Canvas is a fabric used as a painting service and...
Please stop.
Oh wow, I just got it.
The main villain of the game is the Lord of Calamity called Heldolf. He is essentially the opposite of Sorey in that he has given up and accepted malevolence as a part of life. As a result, he has some twisted goals and ideas for how to deal with malevolence. Although I'm not going to name the other characters, they were also designed superbly. I was able to connect with them more deeply as I learned more about them and find them to be very interesting. They have regrets, goals, lively personalities, and so on, which makes them very unique, likable, and most importantly, very believable. Most of them have their own history, and you can see how their past has shaped these characters as you spend more time with them.
That's right.
With that being said, there are some relationships between characters that were not properly explained, and a few characters' backstory was lacking. There are 3 characters specifically that come to mind, which are Aizen, Zavid, and Modulus. Modulus is probably the biggest surprise, seeing as how he plays a very important role in the lore, but it seems as if no effort was put into him. It seemed like they just kinda added him in and stopped thinking about it. He has no lines, and there is very little information given about him at all throughout the game. He is only seen at the end of the game and only for a few minutes. Edna's brother, Aizen, who is a side quest, is also not developed in great detail. We just know that he turned into a dragon and Edna cares a lot about him. There are no clues as to what could have caused him to turn into a dragon or what type of seraphim he was. Zavid's relationship with Aizen is also unknown. All we are told is that there was a promise made between those two, but the player can only guess the circumstances on which that promise was made. It would be assumed that they were best friends, but again, there is no evidence of this. Zavid also seems like someone who has been around for a very long time, but there isn't really much detail given on how he relates to Lila, Edna, and the Lord of Calamity. In terms of gameplay, I had to adjust to Zestiria, coming from Berseria, which has superior combat and exploration mechanics. Zestiria's combat is, at its core, the same as all other Tales of games. You fight enemies in real time where you can dodge, block, and move around. You can also change characters to play a variety of different styles. Despite the combat system being a bit outdated, as it is 2017 now and we have higher expectations, it still holds up even though movement and combos are restrictive compared to Berseria. In battles, you default to running on a 2D plane. If you wanted to move in any other direction on the field, you would have to free run, which would halt SC recovery, or use a side dash, which would consume SC. Spirit Chain, or SC for short, is an action resource similar to action resources of older Tales of games. SC is consumed whenever you attack and recovers when you don't attack. You can customize hidden arts by assigning them to your X button, but unfortunately martial arts cannot be. They are automatically unlocked and assigned as you level up, which sucks. But I got used to it. What I really enjoyed about the battle system is that it offers a very powerful and unique mechanic called armorization, which essentially fuses two characters, combines their stats, and allows you to gain new skills. This is a very fun and interesting concept that allowed me to save myself and my companions numerous times from death. As for exploration and general gameplay mechanics, I think they had interesting concepts, but there's just so much grinding that I didn't want to get into. Luckily, this part is optional. Since I didn't want to devote my time to this part of gameplay, I just ended up playing on the easiest difficulty and ignoring all my gear and abilities. But that doesn't mean I can't talk about them. First, let's take a look at battle actions. Battle actions encompass a few different things. They can be actions that are automatically performed, such as backsteps or sidesteps. They can grant extra abilities, such as if you defend for 1.5 seconds, your blast gauge recovers. Or they can have a negative effect, such as reducing your damage by half, for those people who think hard isn't hard enough. However, most of the stuff isn't free. Turning on battle actions will use AP, and you can only use as much battle actions as your max AP will allow. AP can easily be increased by making discoveries, finding monoliths, or watching skits. The annoying part is actually performing the actions required to unlock a specific battle action, which can take a lot of grinding. Battle actions are fine, but I think gear management is where they make gameplay more of a grind fest. Although if I had more time to actually get into it, I might actually enjoy it. After all, wielding a godly weapon crafted from hours of hard work and crushing your enemies would probably feel really great. The only issue is that since equipment fusion and proficiency tutorials were absolute garbage, it seemed like the system was way more complex and scary than it actually is. Besides the grind, this was the other reason why I didn't bother messing with it. Luckily, Google was much more informative. Higher equipment proficiency reduces the cost of fusions between equipment, which becomes very important if you're trying to craft godly gear, because you're going to be doing a lot of fusions. Fusion is a method in which you gain stronger equipment by combining items of the same name. This will also be the most time-consuming part for those who want to min-max their characters. Generally speaking, when fusing equipment, the skills on the gear will combine into a random skill or directly transfer over. Once you fuse a gear to plus 10, you can have the Lord of the Land bless it, which will reset that gear to 0 while keeping the stats, and you restart the process. In order to make the perfect gear, you need to find the equipment containing the skills you want, which means you have to farm the same equipment over and over again. Then you need to preserve the skill when fusing and blessing it. Skills are important because of special bonus skills called stacks, E-unions, and G-unions, which grant bonus abilities, stats, and can even affect stat growth. Stacking means having 2 or more of the same skill. E-unions is having 2 or more skills aligned horizontally in a grid, and the effect will differ depending on the number of skills connected. G-unions only occur when there are 5 skills connected vertically. Depending on what bonus skills you want, it becomes important to plan what skills you want each equipment to have in order to farm the correct gear and avoid wasting time. The bonus skill system is really interesting because there are 76 bonus skills to choose from, which allows for various builds to use. It gives you a lot of control over how your character grows, which is always a nice option to have in any RPG game. Overall, despite hearing some negative things about Zestiria, I came out really enjoying the game, and liking the idea of the gear strengthening system, although it is a big grind fest. But I do think that playing Berseria first greatly improved my experience with Zestiria. Zestiria is a decent game on its own, and I would definitely recommend it to other JRPG fans, but I would also like to add that it can't be fully appreciated without Berseria. Zestiria and Berseria are like two sides of the same coin, and complement each other, filling in the holes that the other game has, story-wise. Zestiria follows the Shepherd, while Berseria follows the Lord of Calamity. Berseria completes the story and fills in the missing pieces that were left unresolved for those who have only played Zestiria. And for those who only played Berseria, it's actually a good time to get into this game, as you can see what the future holds for some of the characters from Berseria. Gameplay overall felt very reminiscent of other Tales games. Dungeons still had the same style and entertaining puzzles to solve. The battle system, although a bit outdated and restrictive, is still enjoyable, and offers a unique mechanic, amortization. Battles are still done in real time, so it's always interactive and fun to play, even on the easiest difficulty. The unique system of amortization added to the enjoyment of big fights, especially during boss battles where I switch between normal and amortized modes quite often. Tales of Zestiria is definitely a game that you should consider playing if you haven't, as it's only a little over $20 new on Amazon for the PS4 and PS3, with over 30 hours of gameplay if you rush. If you have played Tales of Berseria and liked it, then that is even more reason to give Tales of Zestiria a try. Anyway, that's it for my review. I hope you guys found it helpful and enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.